Joining us now to break down the day's top headlines and what comes next for the Trump team is campaign surrogate Brian Trascher, who also serves as a member on the Trump Recount Committee. So, Brian, right now, we look at the Trump campaign and what it's doing. They are going through the proper legal avenues in order to really verify the results of the election and make sure that it was a legitimate election by following all the proper rules as they're written on the books. But more broadly, what is the campaign strategy right now? Is it to exercise all possible legal avenues?
Well, that's part of it, but to make it even more simple, Alex, the campaign's mission is to make sure that every legal vote is counted, that no American was disenfranchised by having their vote canceled out by a potential illegally cast ballot. But yeah, there are several legal avenues afforded to the campaign in several states. Every state has their own way of doing things. And as you see the process unfold, we're going through the state courts where we plan to be up against a lot of Democrat judges. We move into the federal circuit, appellate, and all the way to the Supreme Court. I think we'll see some different results.
And so can we assume, for example, the Trump campaign is going to continue making their media appearances, making their argument to the American people in order to say, we are still fighting right now, despite what CNN, NBC, Fox News even have called up to this point? Is it the idea that they are still gathering evidence, they are still putting together the argument that they want to make, not only to the American electorate, but also to these judges that they will have to appear before?
Well, a lot of the networks that you mentioned are participating in one of the biggest gaslighting operations and psychological operations in American history, trying to convince the American people that the election's over and that Joe Biden won it. Not a single state is certified yet. You know that, Alex. And until the state's certified and the electors are appointed, the election's still not over. The president is still going through his legal options. You're going to see a tremendous rally in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, and then the president's going to take his case on the road, do what he does best, go out and connect with the American people one-on-one. He's going to do his MAGA rallies. And we'll see if these adversaries of his can stand up to the will of the public.
And when it comes to making the case to the American people, too, we know that the president has a very enthusiastic base, people who are going to be there for him, quite frankly, whether he wins this upcoming election or not. I mean, President Trump, I don't think, is going anywhere, acknowledging how much power and strength he has within the Republican Party. So when it comes to making the case to the constituents, are they going to see the evidence that is being made in the courtroom, or is this something that is going to be done behind closed doors? We're going to put lawyers out there, for example, to make the case in the courts, and then a different thing comes out to the public, or will these two things be symbiotic in a way?
Well, no, they will. And you've seen Rudy Giuliani, who's one of the heads of our legal team. You've seen Rick Grinnell out in Nevada, and you've seen Corey Lewandowski in Pennsylvania as well. Provide evidence. There are hundreds and hundreds of affidavits that have been signed by people under the penalty of perjury that they saw and witnessed voter fraud. Now, the question is, was it enough to actually affect the results that we've seen? We'll see. I mean, it looks like on the surface there could be enough fraud there, but now we have to look at this Dominion voting software that even liberal Democrats like Elizabeth Warren have complained about in the past in her own election, with results being changed and votes being distributed to someone that the voter did not vote for. Look, the American people deserve to have a free and fair election, and over 72 million people voted for President Trump. Of course, he has an enthusiastic base. They deserve every last ounce of fight he's got left in him to make sure that this election is conducted fairly and we know who the real winner is.
And I think it just bears repeating the understanding that if the shoe was on the other foot, Democrats would be doing the same exact thing. I mean, there's a reason why these legal avenues exist. There's a reason why the Republicans, for example, in the Trump campaign are pursuing them. It's because they are available. And I know that Democrats would be doing the same exact thing, but you bring up the point that it's about making sure that this election was fair and accurate. I mean, at the very least, half of the country has questions about this election. And if it went, for example, for President Trump, I know that the other half of the country would have questions about this election as well. So what can we take out of this whole experience moving forward? Should we make sure that our election results and really the processes within itself are in fact fair and accurate and could be audited?
Well, look, the juxtaposition between what happened this time and in 2016, there was no question that President Trump won the election, but Democrats made up a story about Russia interfering with the election. They impeached President Trump over a fake phone call to Ukraine, which turned out to be absolutely right. We know now that Joe Biden did participate in a quid pro quo with the Ukraine to try to get an investigation dropped of his son's shady business dealings. And look, I know that the Hunter Biden laptop's fallen off the headlines, but they'll be back, trust me. But going back, like I said, the Democrats did object to the 2016 election, and there was not anywhere near the amount of evidence that we have now that it was tampered with, like in 2020. So, of course, I'll go ahead and say it. I would rather a legitimate President Biden than an illegitimate President Trump. I want this election to come out, and I want the results to come out, be fair and transparent. And to the person who actually got the most legal ballots cast for them, that's who should be sworn in on January 20th.
I think that's very well said, because the integrity of our elections goes beyond any one candidate. It's something that quite literally holds this country together. And if the people don't have faith in the system, we don't have the democratic republic that we think we do have. And to your point as well, even Hillary Clinton was telling Joe Biden, do not concede, even if you lose this race. We know that there's a strategy there. We know that Democrats would be exercising the very same situation if the shoe was on the other foot. But Brian Trascher, I really appreciate you coming on the program tonight, breaking down what's happening right now involving the Trump campaign. Thank you.
Good to see you, Alex.